My name is Philip Lamar and you're watching Fabulously Philip. I'm from Austin, Texas. I'm just a young, ambitious individual with some really big dreams. Come along with me as I share my journey with you. Stay fabulous. In this episode, I talk about my brother's suicide and how it affected me and my family. So trigger warning, as this episode does cover topics such as suicide. So this is where my brother took his life. It was just like any other day. I went to sleep, I was going to bed early, and he had left with a girl, went down to the park, came back, and then they got in an argument. She left, and my brother was drinking, doing pills. This girl left, and he started banging around the house. I remember hearing the noises, like him banging, hitting stuff, and I just stayed in my room because, you know, that when he acted like that, I didn't want it. We had already gotten into a fist fight before. Other times he had been abusive to me, and I didn't fight back. So I just wanted to avoid something happening again. And then after a while, I heard 3 bangs. And I was like, what? Like, what was that? Is something in the stove and just blew up? Like, what the hell? I remember walking out. I was careful because I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't even know that the girl left. I realized after the fact. And I turned to go down the stairs, and that's when I saw my brother's legs. And I was like, what? And it was coming from my dad's room. So I walked in my dad's room, and I had seen that my brother blew a hole in his chin with the gun. And I was confused because I didn't realize we had a rifle. I thought he had shot himself with a BB gun and blew a hole in his chin. I was like, what the hell? And he wasn't responding. Having to deal with that situation alone was really a lot. I mean, I just remember staring at him. I pulled out my phone and I texted my dad. I was like, when are you coming home? I'm watching my brother lifeless, and it just doesn't occur to me, oh, call 911. I guess the shock of it all caused a delay in my responses. So I called 911. 911 was like, oh, you need to check if he's alive, you need to check if he's breathing. And I was like, I can't do this. And they were like, well, someone needs to be able to check in on him and let us know what's going on. So I ran to the neighbor's house over here, and I knocked, and I was like, Justin shot himself. And I was like, can you come help me, like, look and make sure he's okay? You don't have to if you don't want to, but I need help. And Aaron, the neighbor at the time he moved, he was gonna come, but that's when the first cop rolled in. And I told the cop, I was like, just go inside, he's upstairs. And so thankfully, my neighbors didn't have to see this. The cop came down and verified with me, he died. He's not alive. And I was like, oh shit. I'd already called my dad and told him, you know, Dad, you need to come here. Justin shot himself. And my dad was asking questions like, is he dead? And I was like, I'm not gonna answer these questions over the phone. Get home now. And I got off the phone, and then I had found out that Justin died. And our neighbors over here, Beth and Eric, they came out to make sure. It's like, once Justin was verified dead, all these cops and ambulance and fire truck flooded in. Like, our cul-de-sac was lit up. This was like 9 o'clock at night, and it was crazy because it was a crime scene. And Beth came out and was like, are you okay? And I told her what happened. And ever since, we've been good friends. Our neighbors really were there for us. And it's like, you know, a difference between someone being nosy and someone genuinely wondering if you're okay. And so that night they sat out there with us because it was a crime scene, everything was blocked off. They sat there the whole night with us to make sure we were okay. I remember walking over here, and I remember I was like, I need to call my sister and tell her what's going on. So I remember walking over here because I remember I was like, I need privacy, like I need to be able to talk to her in private. It was basically along here that I got on the phone with my sister, and I was like, hey, how are you? Like, I wanted to keep like a good tone because I knew the kind of conversation that was about to happen. So I knew I needed to stay calm for that conversation. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she told me, I'm just out with Michael, her fiance, and her best friend at the time. And I was like, well, I need to tell you something, but it's really, really serious. So I need to make sure that you're in a place I can tell you, or like if you need to call me back, but it's very serious. And she was like, okay, tell me. And I told her Justin committed suicide. And she immediately started screaming on the phone. Like, I had never heard my sister scream like that ever. So it just, I don't know, I just never heard her ever scream like that. It didn't even sound like her. I thought I was hearing like another person scream. Yeah, I just had to break the news to her, and she ended up coming and sitting out with us all night until finally they were able to put him in a body bag and roll him out into the van, the secret van that they had. And no one was able to, I was the last person to see my brother. I was the only person to see him dead other than authorities. My parents, my sister, none of them got to say bye to him because it was during the pandemic too. So they were very strict about letting people come in places. So my parents didn't even get to go see his body. The last they ever saw of him was I guess their last time they ever saw him. And other than that, they got his ashes. So they never got to really say goodbye. So this is where my brother came with the girl. And they were just having a good time, like just chilling, rapping, singing, I guess, hours before he took his life. And yeah, like from the video, you would not think that a few hours later that person would take his life. I'm on my way to tell my mom that her son, my younger brother, killed himself tonight. And I am being escorted by police. My feelings beforehand, like, I don't know. I don't know. So, I need to just go. So, today my sister came over and we were just talking to my dad about like everything that my brother does and how his drug addiction, alcohol addiction is just, it's dangerous. Years before this happened, me and my sister saw the signs in my brother's behavior, and we had serious conversations with both of our parents about how Justin's decisions could lead to something like this to us. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, what turn will my brother take and how will it affect me? And I don't want to be the butt of like his consequences. Ugh, I just don't want anything to happen to me. I'm thinking about how my brother could still be alive if he had possibly gone to rehab. Part of me does feel definitely like this event divided my life into two chapters. To like, I'm a new person now. Like, I just see things so differently now. The person who never experienced what I did that night, and then there's the person that did experience that. Everything has just always, I hate that there just comes a point where everything feels surreal because it's like your innocence has been taken from you. I have those surreal moments where I'm like, I'll really never be able to talk, not that I talked to Justin anyway, but I'll never see Justin again, or, you know, we don't even have that chance to make things better. I'm definitely processing my emotions about the situation. I didn't have a good relationship with my brother, but there was still the what ifs. You never know what the future may hold. We probably could have settled our differences and had a good relationship, but now that's not a possibility. I don't think who we were at 17 has to define the rest of our lives. Like, I don't think it would have happened tomorrow if he was around, for sure, even in a year or two. I wouldn't know. But I'm just saying, like, he doesn't even have the chance to get, like, better, to go to rehab and maybe change. The truth is, my brother was still a child with endless possibilities, and that was taken from him. So I'm showing my dad Justin's autopsy report that took a month to get. It's 50 pages long. So I printed out Justin's toxicology and autopsy report for you.
Yes. Is that the whole 50 pages?
All 50 pages. I have it on my iPad, I have it on my phone, and I printed this out so that way you can look at it physically. Here, I can bring it to you.
Thank you, my son.
The autopsy showing that my brother had a lot of alcohol in his system, benzos, Xanax, so he definitely was out of it when he committed suicide. There were a few things I didn't like about it. First, they referred to the girl as his ex-girlfriend. She was never his girlfriend.
Exactly.
The investigator said that he saw a can of bedbug spray in our house and that there was a bedbug on his stomach when they found his body. We didn't have bedbugs. Then they said our home was unkempt.
Yes.
And that's embarrassing and trashy. White trash. There were just like a few of those details that were like incorrect. And I'm like, for a case where, I don't know, for a case where all the evidence was there, the fact that they still had inaccuracies just shows why cases don't get solved. The inaccuracies to this case though is really annoying because it was rather a simple case. Like all the evidence was there and they just seemed to mix up statements from me, my dad, my sister. They created this narrative that wasn't true in some ways. It's like, get it together. You have all the information. If they didn't have their facts straight for this one simple suicide case, I feel like they put words in my mouth. I didn't say he blacked out daily. It was often that he blacked out, but it wasn't daily. So I'm spreading my brother's ashes at a special spot that I like to come to. I believe that it's important to spread his ashes whenever I go on trips, or whenever I go to somewhere special, because if I were cremated, I would want my ashes to be spread in different places. My dad was literally bawling when he gave me some of my brother's ashes because it's just like so emotional for him. Even now, like he's just so traumatized and heartbroken over the situation. He still blames himself because he left the gun unlocked under his bed. So you wish you could take that pain away from someone, but it's like, yeah, you can't. I never felt angry at him for finding him dead. There were other things that I felt more angry with him about because we didn't have a good relationship. But I always felt like for some reason I was the one meant to find him. I just feel like I would have handled it the calmest because my family that night was just so distraught and messed up from it. So had someone else found him, I don't know how they would have reacted. That doesn't mean I deserved to go through that. Like, I don't think anyone should have to go through finding someone dead. I mean, that's a lot. It's a traumatic event. So I just have to learn to deal with it because it is what it is. What happened, happened, and can't take that back. I kind of felt alone, like having to find him, having to be the calm one that night. I did feel very alone in that situation. Even though me and my family were going through that situation together, I felt isolated in a way. Sometimes I think about him like, had he lived, would he have sought help? All I know is I just feel like he was robbed of that opportunity. So I guess this middle one here, I'll sit. So I'm talking to the girl who was the last person to see my brother alive. She agreed to talk on the phone with me and have it recorded for my series. Even though it's been a few years since his death, I feel like it's important to hear from her, like what happened that night, get some clarity. She asked for a little bit of more time to recollect herself. I think it's harder for everyone else to talk about it than it is for me. Like, you know, people had more of an emotional connection to my brother than I did because we hated each other. I think that's why it's probably easier. I'm gonna call her now.
Hello?
Hey, it's Philip. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Just kind of preparing for this conversation.
It's like I guess a heavy conversation just because, you know, I could understand if perhaps this might be a little hard for you to talk about as well because, you know, y'all were childhood friends. And
how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm just, you know, working on my series. I decided, you know, it was time to make an episode about the experience with him and get a recollection of like what went on that night, you know. I know you were the very, very last person to ever see him alive.
I can kind of like start from like our like history and like what brought us to that day.
Yeah.
I've known Justin since we were like in 4th grade, and like we had like immediately like became friends. I had moved schools, and I had saw him back again in like high school, like the first day of school. And like immediately like we just clicked and we became friends again. Like we caught up, In high school, I would say that he was like a really big part of my life. I started to realize that Justin was like doing like harder drugs, and like I wasn't doing like drugs like that, and so it kind of separated us in that time period. Justin had decided to tell me that he had feelings for me, and we both had feelings for each other. I didn't know that he was on drugs, and that's the next day he didn't remember that, and I don't know why, but it just really upset me. They just drifted us apart for some time.
I can totally understand like why that would be so upsetting.
I didn't really understand like why he was like doing like speed and meth and I didn't really want like that environment around me. Even when we were upset with each other, like, and we saw each other around, it just still felt like we had that strong friendship. He wasn't going to school anymore. It was like August when he had just randomly called me. He just really wanted to have a friend around. He wanted to drink, and we just loved each other. So I was like, you know what, that's okay. We can hang out. And I had brought us a bottle, as whenever we got there, like, I was just so happy to see him. He was happy to see me, and he just made me feel so welcomed. And like, he like immediately like was apologizing about like what had happened in the past. He's like, I know we had like a lot of sadness and tension in our past, but I just want you to know like I really care about you, and I'm so sorry, and I just want to be friends again. Decided to go to the park, neighborhood.
Went to that table, I believe. I think it was the same table that y'all were sitting at. Well, he was rapping something, and
yeah, like we were freestyling together.
Yeah.
I believe we finished the bottle. After we were like done freestyling, we had went to like the train tracks, and like we were just like hanging in the air, like watching like the sunset at the train tracks, you know? Like I remember he was like talking to me about how he was like really like stressed that he didn't know what he wanted to do like with his future. I was like, no, like it's okay, like we could find a way for you to like still graduate. But he was just thinking it was like too late for him, and he just didn't know how he was gonna just like work with his life. Like he brings up that he was on Xanax, and I didn't know that, like, because I wouldn't have wanted to like drink with him. I remember like when we were at the train tracks, like before we left, he told me he still wanted to hang out. He was like, can we like go back to your place? And I was like, yeah, like that's fine, like, you know, you can sleep on my couch. We were having honestly such a good day. Like I just felt like there's gonna be so many more days after that. Like I remember like we're running, holding hands, like running back to the bench. And like, you know, we were just like dancing and singing music. Whenever we got back to the house, so Justin wanted to like be intimate with me, but like we didn't end up doing that. I remember telling him, I was like, hey, like I know I said like we're gonna hang out longer, but I think I should go home. I was like, I don't think my family would be okay if like we're both intoxicated like this at my house. I should just go home by myself. And I remember he was just really upset with me saying this. Next morning I texted him and I was like, I'm sorry about how like last night ended. And I was like, I just hope you know I still had like a really good time with you, and you know I want to see you again soon. 1 p.m. DJ, he called me and he had told me that Justin had killed himself. And I just remember like being in such disbelief, because I had known Justin for so long, and like I would have never thought that would have been his last day, because I didn't know if he was going to do that to himself. I just didn't know if he was going to do that night. Like, we were just so young, and he was only 17.
That's exactly where I stand. Like, I always knew his behavior like was high risk for suicide, but that day, you would have never thought that would have been the day that he did it. We honestly believe that it's because he was blacked out. Like, him having all that Xanax in his system, he also had benzo in his system, and then that mixed with the alcohol, he was blacked out. We honestly believe that he didn't know what he was doing.
I don't think so either. That just makes me really sad. I feel like I take so much fault in this, because I just didn't know that what he was like doing, because he knew that like I didn't really accept him like whenever he was doing drugs, and I just felt like I wish I would have known, because I wouldn't have like, you know, drank with him.
I don't blame you. Like, you're not to blame, and I know like I can't tell you how to feel, but I don't think that you're at fault at all. Like, I mean, looking back to whenever I was 17 or 16, I don't drink now, but I remember wanting to just have fun with friends, and like if there was alcohol, cool. Like, it's not uncommon, you know, to drink when you're that young and with friends. Like you said, you didn't know that he had all that in his system when you started to hang out with him.
Because I knew, like, at the time, like, I think y'all weren't talking.
I always gave him the silent treatment, like, not to hurt his feelings, but because I was just, like, trying to protect myself, and I didn't want him to upset me or disturb my peace, so, like, I would literally ignore him because I just wanted to protect my peace.
I felt too growing up, like, seeing him just, like, do, like, really hard drugs and, like, not, like, really be there for himself, because he was, like, a really caring person when he could be, but it was just really hard seeing him, like, fall into those patterns.
Who knows what would have happened, like, years down the road. Like, we could have totally, you know, he could have gotten clean and worked on himself, and we probably could have had a relationship, but, like, now that will never be a possibility.
I really cared for him, and I just was talking to him like there was going to be so many more days after that. We were just talking about, like, how everything, like, happens for a reason, and I was just like, it's going to be okay. It really felt like the best day with him. Like, it was just going so good until, like, I told him, like, you know, I'm going to go home because I didn't want to be intimate, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy that you actually messaged me, because I've been thinking about, I think about him all the time, but I just, like, you know, I was, like, getting messages, like, thinking about him, and he had reached out to me. So I'm really glad we got to have this conversation for you, because I feel like it's great for the both of us.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's something very much needed.
Okay, well, have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye. I'm really glad her and I got to talk, because it seems like we both needed it. I found it to be rather healing, to be able to piece everything together and understand what really went on that night. It was nice getting to, like, sort of get an idea of what that night was really like before. You know, it's nice to know that it wasn't just this terrible, like, them getting in an argument and him killing himself. Like, he at least had some fun moments, you know, before.
It's always good to know the context.
Yeah, knowing the context.
Welcome to You Look Good, a podcast where we laugh and have deep conversations while lifting each other up.
I'm listening to a podcast that Hannah's on, and she opens up about my brother's death.
I am your host, Abraham Alvarado, and today I'm joined with Hannah. Hi.
Howdy. I think we grew up in a really terrible home environment. Like, a lot of the times I didn't really feel very safe. It wasn't clean. We're all going through these really traumatic experiences over and over and over again, different traumatic experiences. Me and Philip haven't always gotten along, but it is because of those, like, it is directly because of those experiences. We were all trying to, like, grow and try to find a way out of the trauma. And I think when that happens, it's kind of like you got to put yourself first, and it doesn't always line up. Philip was like, hey, are you in a safe place right now? And I was like, why? Are you behind me? And I was, like, looking in the rear view, and he was like, no, Justin took his life tonight. And I just screamed in the car for, like, a whole hour, trying to make sense of, like, what Philip just told me. I was on the phone with him the entire time. I never hung up, and I didn't realize. Philip had stayed on the phone the entire time, hearing me scream and cry. That is, like, one thing that will always make me feel so terrible. That is, like, another trauma in itself for Philip, and I feel so awful for putting him through that. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of control in that situation, but I know that is something that he's going to carry for the rest of his life. I think living through that trauma together, we've gotten closer. You know, and it kind of works that way. You know, it just kind of works that way. And so me and Philip are pretty close now. We talk all the time, we hang out all the time, and that was not you know, our relationship didn't look that way.
I definitely have to tell my sister that I don't want her to feel regretful for burdening me with hearing her scream on the phone that night. Yes, it was traumatizing, but I don't want her to carry that weight. So I'm having coffee with my friend Abe at a coffee shop. I'm wanting to tell him that I listened to his podcast and how I feel about what Hannah had to say. Oh yeah, the podcast.
Yeah.
I listened to it.
It went very well, I think.
Yeah.
It got a lot of traction.
Really?
Yeah, it did really well.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it? Talking about her side.
Hannah asked me before, if there was anything that she couldn't talk about, and I told her, it's your truth. You can say whatever. The one thing that I heard her say was that she feels really bad about how she was screaming on the phone and I had to hear that. But I want to talk to her, and I'm waiting for when she can film, and I'm gonna tell her like I don't want her to feel bad about that or carry that weight with her.
Yeah.
That I had to hear that because we all went through that situation, and I don't know. I just want to tell her like I don't want her to feel bad for that. Like it was traumatic, yes, it was very traumatic, but I don't want her to carry that.
Yeah.
So
Is that the first time that you heard that? Like she never mentioned
we
it?
honestly don't really talk about it much.
Yeah.
Like we can, but we don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm at Hannah's house to tell her my opinion about the podcast and to also give her some childhood pictures that I think she would like. I'm a friend. Yes, you remember me.
Damn, she loves you. She always remembers you.
Hey, girl. If you don't want to keep them, you don't have to, but I sorted through family photos, and these are like predominantly like of you. I don't know if you've ever seen.
How cute.
Yeah.
My eyes were like blue. What the heck?
Yeah, I've always thought you had blue eyes for some reason.
My eyes are green.
It's cute.
Oh, I don't think I've seen these pictures.
Yeah, like I sorted through photos. I don't know if you've seen all of them. That's why I was like, I need to give these to Hannah. I finally can tell you what I thought of the podcast.
Okay.
I just think we all dealt with.
I don't want to talk about this right now, actually. Sorry. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this right now.
It's just me, like my feelings. It's not you.
Okay.
For me, I think we all dealt with that situation the way that we needed to. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to live with feeling like you burdened me with hearing you.
Okay.
I don't want you to feel that way.
Okay. We can talk about this more later. I don't want to talk about it right now. I got, a lot going on.
Yeah, that's all. I have nothing else to say. I told Hannah what I could before she shut it down. You never know with her when you can talk about stuff because I never know what type of mentality she's in. So it was definitely hard for me to bring this up and it kind of got shut down, but I get it. It's a heavy topic. But I do feel like it's necessary to tell her not to feel burdened. We all did the best that we could that night, and I don't want anyone feeling regretful. No one prepares you for that kind of situation, and you just have to do your best. And I think we all did our best. The thing that's crazy is I remember seeing my brother come home for the first time when he was a baby. It's crazy to think that I also saw him for the last time when he was being wheeled out. So it's like I saw him come home for the first time and I saw him leave home for the last time. I'm calling my friend Priscilla because I just want her to know how thankful I am for her friendship. She's been the most supportive person to me when it comes to my brother's death. She will talk to me about it anytime. She validates my emotions. She's just been such a supportive person, and I'm honestly glad that she's in my life because she's a safe space, and I'm just so appreciative of everything.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay.
I'm up filming. I'm just doing confessionals, but I wanted to call and say thank you so much for being my friend. You were like the most supportive person when it came to my brother's situation. Like
Aww.
the most supportive, and you helped me a lot during that time and even after, and I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. I honestly didn't know that I was, though.
You were the most supportive person. The number one supportive person.
See, I didn't know that because I feel like you're like super closed off about it. You know?
Yeah, but I mean,
That's okay.
when we would talk about it, you would like ask me about my feelings, and like you really like helped me analyze the situation and process my emotions, and no one else would talk to me about it like that.
Do you think maybe it was because like your friends didn't know how to
Probably.
bring it up, you know?
I think when it comes to like heavy situations like that, people can become very awkward about
And
it.
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
they just don't know what to say, or like it's, yeah. But with you didn't act like that. You were very on it, and like it really helped me. Yeah, it was a crazy situation. Like,
It's tragic.
yeah.
So tragic. And And just the fact that it was like you know, not that it's a bad thing, but you'd never be the same, you know?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there was the life, like the person that didn't experience that, and then there's the person that did experience it.
Right. Like your whole family went through it.
Yeah.
Are going through it. But not belittling what everyone's experience was, but yours was just much more traumatic.
Yeah.
I would say it's the right word, you know? And then also like holding it together for the whole family.
Yeah, definitely. It took a toll on me. I think we all did our best, and, you know, it is what it is, so.